Now let's talk Wasps. Wasp 1A is the prototypical Wasp from 3025, but there are a lot of other variants, and they are all all these different stock variants have various pros and cons and have significantly different combat performance. Now then there's also this Wasp combat book. It's one of these where you give this book to the opponent and the opponent gives you their book, and then you play out how the battle would have gone from the view of the actual cockpits. And it's a deterministic game. There's no dice rolling. It's like you make choices and you mark down damage and heat and things like that, depending on your actions, which are allowed by the various pages. And you can fight out from cockpit view against another player who has another one of these combat books. And then you can try it out. So I'm tempted to try making a video or a meshed network of videos where you click left or right video depending on what choice you make, sort of like a choose your own adventure battle using two of these combat books. Leave me a note if you think that's worthwhile. It's a lot of effort though, so I want to make sure it's worthwhile. Now let's get back to talking Wasp variants. So we've got the A variant, which has got the medium laser and the SRM2, and that's kind of like this Wasp 1A. There's a special Wolf's Dragoons, the 1W variant. That one is 5 small lasers, nothing else. Then there's the 1D variant, which has medium laser, a small laser, and a flamer. Then there's a K variant, which has got a machine gun and a medium laser, sort of like a Stinger. Then there's the L variant, which just has an SRM4, no other weapons. And then there's an S variant, which did not come out by 3025. It comes out a little closer to 3050. And it's got, it has a medium pulse laser and 2 small lasers and a flamer. And then last but not least, there's also the Wasp 105, which is a LAM, and it basically is a 30-ton version of the Wasp that can fly like a VTOL, and otherwise it's got fairly similar weapons but more armor, and of course it has it's of course more battle value and more C-bills, but otherwise it's still a Wasp. Now I'm going to show you the computer simulation combat performance of all these Wasps. But ignoring that, I think the Wasp has a lot of promise for customization. If you want to make a custom mech, then the Wasp would be a good one to choose to customize. I think there's a lot of potential, especially for the small mech scale. Okay, here I have gotten my computer simulations for the battles for round robin. So the Wasp 1A wins 19% of its battles. The Wasp 1W only 14%. The 1D only 11%. It's the worst performing other than the Wasp 1L, which is also poorly performing. The Wasp 1K 17%. Wasp 1S also 17%. And the Wasp 105 29% of its battles. For comparison purposes, the Stinger, STG-3R, which I consider the worst mech in the game, has an 11% win fraction. Slightly, just by random noise, happened to beat the Wasp 1D here, but that's the Stinger 3R. Now, the different mechs and vehicles that it fights against in the round robin is a fairly large collection, including clans, 3025 and 2750 vehicles, lots of infantry platoons and organizations, including full lances and even full companies. So, for example, one of the round robin battles is Rolling Thunder, or the Grey Death Legion, or Cranston Snords Irregulars, like the entire mech company of the Cranston Snords Irregulars, which is let's see which one's that one's worth. 12,000 battle value. So that's one of the battles that it has to fight. So it's no surprise that these mechs will only win some fraction of their battles. So when you say 11%, it means it won 11% of the time, accounting for every single thing that I just showed you. Obviously, it's not going to beat a direwolf, but it'll beat some infantry platoon, something like that, some of the time. But in any case, that gives you an idea as to the combat performances of these different variants of the Wasp. So now you pick which one you like the most. If you look here, and we can take a look at their efficiencies as far as their wins per ton. This version, which is, I believe, the 1A, has one of the highest wins per ton. So that's weight-wise. If you're going by tonnage, you want to go for that one. If you want to go for wins per kilo battle value, it's also 0.5, which is basically the best. Because this one's only 0.27. So even though this one, which is the 1D, even though the 1D has a terrible win fraction, so that explains its low wins per battle value. So it doesn't do you any good to win more often if you're more battle value. So this one has 384 battle value. So one of these, like lower battle value units, like this one, the 1L, you might get fooled into thinking it's a better mech. But its wins per battle value is 0.36 instead of 0.5, so it's actually not as good. And its wins per ton is 6. And its wins per mega C-bill 0.08. So whereas the wins per mega C-bill is 0.11 for the Wasp 1A. So it's cheaper for mega C-bills for its combat effectiveness, cheaper for tons, and cheaper for battle value. So if battle value is a perfect metric, then everything would have the same wins per battle value. But it's not the perfect metric, and neither is tons and neither is C-bills. So it turns out the Wasp 1A so far might be the best Wasp, ignoring the Lamb version because that's a special missions unit. But that's why I think the Wasp, customization of the Wasp holds promise. If you can come up with something better than the Wasp 1A, then for its battle value or C-bill cost, then that would be very interesting. Please post as a comment any variant of the Wasp that you want to have tried out in the simulations, or even any mech at all, and I'll implement it and we'll see how it does.